Hi everyone and welcome one more day to Say the Art. The other day I was talking to a friend who was telling me the problems she has to practice alone paganism. I know it's a problem that many of you have because you have written many messages and comments telling me that you have this problem. So I decided to make this video. You will see that you are not the only ones. It's something that happens to many of you, and the reason is that there are many countries where paganism is not the most widespread, not the most common practice. But there is no problem, because today I'm going to tell you what are the drawbacks and problems, what you can have and how to solve them. At the end of the video I'll give you some tips so that you can continue with the practice if you really see it as a way of life, not as a fashion. So I hope you like today's video and let's see it. The practice of paganism, wherever the variety, today still there are many countries where it can be something strange and unknown, and as everything the unknown can be scary. The reason for this ignorance and fear is that paganism has been forgotten for many years, and it was replaced and cancelled by other religious practice. Luckily, today there are being rescued all these customs, and it's having an awakening to practice all these traditions and folklore, which are our roots. There are two ways to practice paganism, alone or in a group, because that most of the people start looking for information, reading, practice alone. Many people continue to practice alone in the future. Practicing alone has many advantages, but it also has drawbacks. Those drawbacks come from that the people around us doesn't share the belief or practice, and that can make relationships difficult and the practice itself. The first problem that you can have at the time of practice alone is ignorance and misunderstanding. Perhaps these are the biggest and important problems. We live in an age in which we are in two extremes. There are many freedoms and understanding for some things, and very few freedoms and little understanding for other things. The same thing happens with people. Some people are very tolerant and comprehensive, and others not, because of fear and ignorance. United fear and ignorance. After hundreds of years of practicing Christianity caused paganism to remain totally forgotten, and that now that practice seems bad, strange and dangerous. But that is not the truth. Paganism is folklore and the traditions and customs of our ancestors, and the practice based in connection with nature and with ourselves. In many countries, paganism is practiced by the minority, and this causes a misunderstanding, and misunderstanding generates repulse. Another thing that generates repulse is the use we make of plants and herbs. Plants were forgotten and have not been used for many years because of the use of medicines. So there is the idea that plants are toxic and dangerous and only used by witches and warlocks. In ancient times, the herbs were used by witches and warlocks, who were the wise people that were in ancient societies. People came to them when someone was sick, and thanks to herbs and plants, They cured the people who live in their village. Medicine, science, and the persecution during the witch hunt did this practice and use of herbs and plants were bad things and dangerous. Lots of herbs and plants can be dangerous, but that is the reason to know them and work with them and take advantage its virtues and power. Using herbs and plants to consume, it's still considered something strange, but you can use them to make infusions, which luckily it's currently spreading. In this way, perhaps around you, people will better accept the use of plants. Incense sticks, dried flowers, and the plants we used for rituals, the altar, or other practice, they're also seen bad things today. You can disguise it as decoration in your houses. Candles and incenses, they are the fire element and the air element. They are two elements very important that must always be present. There has been always a fire in the houses, and in celebrations from ancient times to today, bonfires and candles are present. It's something that is not strange or too repulsive. Incense is the element of air, but it also serves to create a special atmosphere and energies that serve for every moment, every practice or ritual. Nowadays, it's not strange that people use perfume or fresheners at home, but it is strange for some people that we use incense. It has no sense. Even in Christian churches, incense is used. Therefore, if incense is used in paganism for practice and rituals, there's no correction. It's something strange or dangerous. Fire element. You know that each color of candlelight has a meaning and energy, but maybe colored candles are the most repulsed. Don't worry, you can use white candles. They are valid for everything. Crystals and gems. People don't understand its use and consider it dangerous. This idea has no sense. Crystals have power and energy very strong, and that we use them to work with them and benefit us. Nowadays, it's more common the use of crystals in many therapies. Having crystals at home, use them in rituals, the altar, use pendulums, all the uses are necessary and complement practice, create an atmosphere and vital energy for any moment. Each crystal provides a different energy, and its use depends on the mood and the need of each person. People usually use gold, diamonds and other jewels to decorate. But they don't accept that we use pendulums or crystals to benefit their energy. It's something that haven't sense. The crystals come from the earth and transmit their energy. We must always use them. Another important thing and that generates repulse is the ritual. For practice of paganism, the ritual is essential, be it a simpler ritual or elaborated ritual. But to practice paganism alone, the problem is to choose the time and place. You can do the ritual in nature, in the forest, where you are calm, and you can do the practice quietly. But many of you haven't a forest place near home, and you have to make the ritual at home. There we have the problem. If you live with people who don't practice paganism, the moment of the ritual can be complicated. You have to choose the moment and the place carefully. To choose the best moment, I advise you to be when you are alone at home or at night when the people you live with sleep. This is the best moment to make the ritual in a way quiet and freer. The ritual will have to be more easy than you would like, but we have to adapt. The place for the ritual, the best is your room. It's the best way to not attract attention of the other people who live in the house. There are many elements for rituals. You have to respect the correspondences, to use the elements without cause repulse of the people who live with you. And you can use elements like plants, recipes, and easy elements that make them familiar. For the ritual in your room at night or where you are alone, you can use more elaborated elements, and so the ritual will be more complete. The altar is another one point that causing trouble. There are people who remove it and put it in every ritual, Sabbath or celebration. Other people leave it fixed. I advise you to leave it fixed because it's the best way to go unnoticed, and in time don't attract the attention to the rest of the people in the house. The altar causes repulse because it's an important point of practice and ritual, and ignorance of the elements that they form, it causes fear. I advise you put the altar in your room and make it part of the decoration of the room. This will go unnoticed for other people in the house. If it is a part of the decoration of the room, it won't be strange when you change the elements of the altar with the different Sabbath celebrations or rituals. So they will see it as a part of the room and it will not be strange. I think the altar is something very personal and shouldn't be in passage area or where the other people in the house are. So a quiet room or your bedroom is the best option. All these problems are really one. Opinions and comments from others about the alone practitioner of paganism. Ignorance and fear make when people see the rituals or practices of paganism can make comments which are annoying to the pagan practitioner. In fact, two words that are used so slight are heretic and pagan. But if people really knew the meaning of these two words, they wouldn't use them in this way. I tell you why. The word heretic comes from the Greek heretikos, which means the one who is free to choose. So it doesn't make sense that the word heretic be used as night or to qualify a person if he doing something wrong. Heretic, according to its meaning of the word, is he who is free to choose and choose one practice over another. The word pagan comes from the Latin pagus, which means village. It was used in ancient times as a reference to rural areas that later were colonized by Christianity. So use the word pagan in its name way has no sense, since it refers to people from the rural area that practice customs, folklore, and traditions that are our roots. So when people say these words to you, don't worry, because these words have not a bad meaning. So don't worry. And you have two options. Either you ignore when someone makes these comments, or answer them that those words don't mean what they think, and for you they are not insults. To finish, I'll give you some easy and handy tips so you follow it naturally and simple and easy way with practice of a long paganism. The first tip is to be convinced. Yourselves are the first that you have to be convinced of your beliefs and from your practice. I had an Italian friend who said a saying from his country that says, the important thing in life is conviction. If you have conviction, you have everything. In this case, it's like this. Yourselves are the first to have to be convinced of your beliefs and your practice. If you are really convinced and you see it as a way of life, others will respect it and they will accept that is your decision and they have to respect it. The second tip is that don't play the bad comments that can make you feel bad. Try everything in a much more natural way, and if you do this, you are going to be more calm, and the other people that saw your practice like something dangerous or strange will consider it more and more normal. So be quiet, ignore comments, and you will see that over time those people see practice as normal and they don't insist in comment your practice. You will also meet people who will ask you and they will be curious about paganism, practice, your beliefs or the rituals you make. My tip is don't try to convince anyone. Each person has their ideas. Don't try to convince anyone because maybe the person who is curious, if you try to convince him, this person may feel repulsed. So don't try to convince anyone, and if someone asks you, tell him about of the simplest things, and so the other person will feel interest and he will want to continue learning or researching. Another tip is to choose very well the moment and place to make the rituals and the practice. As I said before, it's very important. So don't rush and choose a moment in which you are calm and alone. And choose a place where you can make a ritual and a good practice in the most calm and simple way possible. Another tip is not to discuss with people who can speak ill of elements or practice that you do. Ignore them or or answer them with examples as I said before. If is in a house is normal have fresheners or that people use perfume, why is it strange that we use incense? Why is it strange that we use candles? And in the houses candles are used. Candles are used in religions, and you think that is correct? So don't argue. Or you answer in this simple way, or you ignore it. One of the most important tips is that you have to read and study a lot of paganism. It's the only way that you really understand what are you doing and what are you practicing, and it's the best way to answer when someone asks you or when someone argues against it. If you are well informed and you really know the reason, the origin and the meaning of things, you can answer in the best possible way. It's the best way others respect what you do. Another tip is that you have to understand paganism as a way of life, nothing else. So you don't have to hide in or feel ashamed because it isn't nothing wrong, and neither you have to go everywhere where you are or the people you are with. There is no need to say in all places and to all people that you practice paganism. It's a way of life like any other, and the practice is in yourselves. If someone asks you, you can answer, but it's not necessary saying or proclaim it. Don't worry about practicing paganism alone, since it's one more option. In fact, practicing alone paganism make that your practice be more free, more spontaneous and honest. Practicing paganism as a group can make you are influenced and that you make rituals that you don't like. Many people practice paganism alone and it's not bad, you just have to see the good part. So don't worry, this way you get a more honest and spontaneous practice. If you have the option to know people who practice paganism with you, perfect. But you always have to make some rituals that match with your ideas. And the last tip. Paganism is not a fad. Don't practice it as a fad. It isn't. Paganism is a way of life. I know that today there is a wake up and interest to know paganism and practice it, but fashions comes and go, and paganism is getting looking like a fad. Don't practice it or talk about it as a fashion because it isn't. It's a way of life. It has a meaning and origin and are some traditions and our roots. And there is no correct to see it as a fashion. So don't consider it a fad. Practice as a way of life, and you have to be convinced of your beliefs and your practice, and that is really the path you have to follow. If reading or studying about paganism not convinces you, don't follow this path because it's clearly not yours. Although right now it may seem like a fashion. The fashions pass, this fashion will pass, and we will stay practicing paganism, those who will really believe in it as a way of life. And that is today's video. It's a summary of problems to practice alone paganism, but also there are many advantages. I have given you a simple tips that I hope serve you to continue to practicing more kindly and natural way. I hope you like it and that you find the tips useful, and if you have more problems or doubts, tell me in the comments. You already know that I answer everything. This video I dedicate to my friend Isabel, who gave me the idea to make this video. And about this topic we can talk a long time, but it's a small resume of the most important problems that you can have. I really hope you like it, and I will await your comments. Take care, see you in the video next week. A kiss!